we are gonna do my X marks the spot placement on this 10-week fade. You guys, look at how the Gold Well Illumine Play faded in the actual tone that I put on her head. Now this is an X at the top. You guys know, if you've been following me for a while, that I love doing creative sectioning through the crown. And then what we're gonna do first is create a backdrop. So when I say create a backdrop, I mean create a more solid, heavier section underneath the crown section that will act as a backdrop for the detail work to basically lay on and pop off of. I made this mistake when I started doing creative color, that I was taking every single little panel and I was color melting it or turning it into rainbows, and then I was rinsing my clients out and wondering why I wasn't getting the results that I was hoping for. And the reason for that is because I was taking too small of sections and I was doing all this detail work that when you finally rinse the hair out and looked at it, it was lost. So I created my heart sections with Sid, was the first creative sectioning that I tried, and I fell in love with it. I actually tried it on this client several years ago. So here's what I love to do when you're working with creative colors. Now, think through the fact that you might be working with, you know, a bubblegum pink color on natural blonde hair. This underneath section would all remain blonde. So it's gonna act as your backdrop. It's gonna allow our detail work to pop off at the top. I love keeping it in the same kind of color palette or general feel, so that way the top will pop off of it. What I'm doing here is I'm alternating this deep, dark, kind of berry burgundy color with orange. I'm using Gold Well Illumine Play, and you guys see she has a little bit of residual green through her ends. We're not too worried about that because we're going a lot darker than we normally go. But the thing I wanted to show you guys is, if you're taking too big of sections, look at this. Do you see those two spots right there? It's because my section was too big. So if you're working with creative color for the first time or you've been doing it forever, make sure that you're taking slices that are about half an inch first, and then divide that in half again, so that would get you to about 1/4 of an inch. And you want to paint on that panel. Now, these colors blend so beautifully together because they make this amazing magenta between this kind of like burgundy wine color and the yellow. One of the things I want to point out as I am melting this, and you guys will see it on this next section, I'm wiping my hands and I'm going in with my color melt color, and I'm gonna put it right here on top, almost as a melted option, and then I'm gonna pull that root color down. The reason for that is we have so much of that green left that I need to work a teeny tiny bit of that pinky red through the bottom to kind of counteract that green and get me a really good clean orange. Now, wiping my hands again, you saw me just pick off that tiny little piece. It's really easy when you're working with creative colors and you start in the back. So if you guys follow me, or you've watched me or you haven't watched me, one of the things I want to tell you that's so important with creative color is you always start in the back. You start in the back left if you are right-handed, the back right if you are left-handed, so that you're basically working your way around the head in the cleanest way possible. One of the biggest mistakes I see creative colors do is not like having clean sections, and also not keeping the hair that is not being colored clean. You end up with these terrible little polka dots that end up looking very spotty. Now I'm going to basically time lapse this because I did the exact same thing on both sides, and then we're gonna work our way up to the front. Now remember, all we've done so far, you guys, is this berry color into orange, berry color into yellow, or berry color into berry color. That is it. We have done no detail work. This entire portion of this part of the appointment took maybe 35 minutes as I'm like painting on this creative color. If you guys do creative color, you know it can take hours. So I am here to save you guys so much time. And then we're gonna go in to the other side here, and this is gonna be right around the face, basically kind of like where her money piece would be. And I am gonna work a few rainbow panels up in the front because she loves leaving like some pieces around her face and then going in. I wanna show you guys what I'm doing here. I'm blending as I go. I wanted to show you two separate panels, so you'll actually see me go in. Yellow is super unforgiving, so when you guys are using the yellow, you actually want to make that section a tiny bit bigger. And by that I mean, instead of doing like an inch, you want to extend it about 1.5 inches, because when you start to blend that yellow, you're going to lose a little bit of it. And you really want to make sure that you have enough yellow to act as a buffer between the orange and the green, that it doesn't get eaten up by those colors, if that makes sense. I'm gonna work my thumb and my finger most of the time through it, but every once in a while I'll go back with my pointer and my middle finger just to get a clean blend. So we are finally to the X marks the spot. One of the things I love doing with my creative sectioning is I love doing contrasting placement and contrasting colors through the, like what I would consider the detail work versus the backdrop. I also have referred to it as the veil. Now when working with this, I wanted to do a really good kind of blue pop that would just fall over and act as a veil to this like sunset color mount that I have going on underneath. I've got this deep, dark kind of like denim-y blue, and I'm alternating it with this beautiful kind of like minty green. Now remember, she has a ton of residual green in her hair, just kind of from the fade before, so we're just kind of gonna go with that. The other color that I'm gonna work in up here, because I love working this color in, it's so great for roots that kind of are a little more yellow than you want, is a kind of like purple or cosmic indigo. And I'm gonna do that so that it'll kind of tone her roots as they fade, especially right through the crown. Now, when you're working with creative sectioning, the more horizontal you can create a section, whether it's a heart section, a circle, or like in this case, X marks the spot, the easier the placement is. So if you are working on color melting sections, take horizontal slices regardless of the shape. Now the other thing you'll see me do, which I just did right there, is I took my piece and I placed it directly over the colors that are in the same palette, because I don't want those greens and those blues to be sitting right on the yellow. It's gonna make them muddy and it's not gonna make them as bright. And I'm so particular about how clean my sectioning is. Now here's what it looks like after it's been painted. You guys can see I've got the X marks the spot on the top, the tiny little rainbow panels in the front where the money piece is, and then the sunset color melt underneath. Now, number one question I get, how the heck do I rinse this? What I'm gonna tell you to do, it's so easy when you do the sectioning, is rinse the top first. Whatever your section is, rinse it in ice cold on high pressure, and then work your way through. One of the things I wanted to point out is these bubbles are going down the sink clear, which means there is no color messing up my beautiful yellows, my oranges. You know, if that blue got onto it, it would make it really muddy. Now I have my rainbow sections last. I'm gonna pull these foils out really quick because I don't wanna pull on the foil and make kind of like a smear from the darker colors. And then you see I go right over it. Here it is, brushed out after a haircut. It is so satisfying to me to see all these beautiful colors together. And then I'm gonna actually show you guys the after in different light because I had so many different lights this day. Now here it is curled. This is actually at night. So I had her come back the next day. This is our ring light. The pictures in the ring light turned out amazing. You guys can see the high contrast that we get from X marks the spot into this beautiful sunset color melt that I have underneath. She has these face framing money pieces that are rainbow melted. This is gonna last her forever. She comes in every 10 to 12 weeks. Look at that pop. That is my favorite part in the back right quadrant, just to see that color melt come out under this sea sky blue. And then here we are outside. It was actually freezing this day, so we did this very quickly. I like the color inside a little bit better. It was kind of like a little more blown out here, but it's still beautiful. We've got a little bit more curl to it because we touched it up. I hope you guys love this. Feel free to leave me any questions you have below.